So good evening, everyone. This is the second session of our meeting on Beyond the Ordinary. And last week we saw the idea of identifying ourselves on things that can be meaningful to us, rather than identifying ourselves on things that will not help us much in the spiritual path. And this session we're going to explore more into details ordinary appearance and the concept of ordinariness, as well as some advice of how we could gently break through the ordinary in a practice that's not even Vajrayana, so we don't need an initiation for that, but that is slowly opening to, I'm not going to say extraordinary, because extraordinary seems like it's fictional, but to a reality that is going to help us a great deal in our spiritual effort. And for that, I'm going to use an analogy with this telephone. You've probably heard, all of you, of infinite scrolling. We call it also doom scroll. Well, it's a doom scroll because you enter a kind of activity of scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, and you just wake up after 1 hour, half an hour, just saying, wow, I was just caught in that screen for a long time. And there's something very close to what our ordinary appearance and what we do with our telephone. So if I take this telephone and I scroll on Instagram, I have a very small screen compared to what my eyes can catch. The screen is very, very small. But at the time I scroll and I see this video on base jump, for example, you know, this guy who jumped from the cliff and they do crazy things. Immediately this little tiny screen becomes like my whole experience. I forget about my body, I forget that I'm sitting, I forget about time almost. I'm drawn into that screen, and this takes all the reality of my mind. This becomes like so real. This is the magic of movies, this is the magic of screens, sometimes of music. And if I watch meaningful things, it's okay. But what we find often is that these things are a bit exaggerated. And yet we are taken into that very little fraction of reality, and this becomes like an ultimate for a second. And we believe it so much. And it's very close to ordinary appearance. And I dare say that the way we can be understanding ordinary appearance is that we may scroll onto our life the way we scroll onto telephone. I wake up this morning, I feel like really bad. I look at myself in the mirror. I look like my face is bad, my hair is crazy, I should go to the hairdresser, and it's gloomy, and it's winter in France, and it's bad weather, and I feel, whoa. And then this becomes all my reality. This becomes so much what is ultimate for me, like so true for me. But then somehow the moment after, I just encounter something very pleasant, like a good news. And this becomes like my new reality. I swipe from a gloomy video to a very cheerful cat playing videos. And then this becomes suddenly all my reality. And this is very related to the concept of ordinary appearance and the way we believe it and the way it builds hindrances for us. So you know probably, and we all know, that the best to do sometimes is just to drop the phone. Sometimes not only we are scrolling through the phone, but we tend to get to touch reality through that little screen. You've probably seen these people in concerts. They go to a great concert, great music, and they just look at the concert through their phones. It's crazy, no? Or they go in Louvre. In Paris, I've seen that in the Louvre Museum. So they are in front of painting they would probably never see anymore, like the Mona Lisa or some beautiful, big, and they just see the museum through the screen. So what we would do to break this sense of very little tiny frame would be just to drop the phone and just to be open to the nature, to our senses, to have a direct experience of something that is much bigger. So what is the thing that is much bigger than ordinary appearance that we have of ourselves? This is what we're going to explore tonight. And we're going to try to end this algorithm of ordinary appearance, or to go in that direction at least. So we may start by taking a nice comfortable position. We're going to do a bit of shamatha meditation, calming down our body, breath. So it may be of a nice environment for this evening, in which we're going to be able to better make sense of these topics that are very joyful. For me, they're very powerfully inspiring, and I hope they will be for you as they are for me. And I'm very happy to share this topic, because in my practice, this brings so much joy, so much contentment and inspiration. So let's find a nice, comfortable position. A position that we're going to keep for about 20-25 minutes, but you can change if you feel it's uncomfortable. And we saw last week the importance of leading the breath to have these three characteristics. You remember them? A breath that is silent as much as possible, a breath that is smooth, regular, second characteristic, and the third, a breath that is effortless. So let's go back to it, and I will add a bit on top of that. So let's adapt our posture for this project of making the breath silent, smooth, and effortless. What physical posture could I offer to the breath, so that it's going to be easier for it, the breath, to have these three characteristics? If it helps, we can mentally repeat in breath, out breath, if it helps us to keep track on it. And we start by the beginning, making the breath a bit less noisy if it was before. And let's think that the breath is someone else's baby that was given to you and that is just crying or nervous. If we think the breath is not our, sometimes it can help to be more kind, to make the breath silent, smooth, and effortless. Because we take time, we know that we had a day with many activities, and that has an influence on the equilibrium of the mind and body. So we know it takes time. And we go through these three characteristics one by one, starting by making the breath silent. And then we can make it smooth, regular. Remember these kelps, these seaweeds. And we don't have to wait until it's totally silent to move to the next. Sometimes it's kind of circular process. There's this monk, Ajahn Brahm, in Western Australia that emphasizes a lot on the beautiful breath. So by making it endowed with these three aspects, let's make it beautiful. Something we would like to stay with, because it's making our mind and body good. And we could have a breath that is silent and regular, but somehow we are forcing it. And when forcing it, it's unpleasant, because we would like to breathe more and we just diminish the movement of our abdomen and we feel like suffocating. So we have to make it effortless. There should not be any constraint. And we keep track of the in and out breath. Sometimes the more we are focused on the in breath, knowing that we are breathing in when we are breathing in, and the same for breathing out, this will make these three characteristics come more naturally by just focusing. So the primary activity that we do is focusing, and on the side sometimes we check to make these breaths having these three qualities. So what do we check now? Well, classic text like Vasubandhu says, well, what you actually observe when you breathe, it's the actual wind element, which has the quality of being light and moving. So now I would like you to observe the movement of your abdomen around the navel, or if you feel your breath more here, just experience the movement and the lightness. It's light and it's moving. Experience your breath as being light and moving. like a silent breeze in summer. It's smooth. It's not catching. It's not like... It's regular. And there's no effort in that movement. So the tactile sensation that you feel around the navel or wherever it happens, even in the nostril, you perceive it in terms of something light and moving. Really as if the body was totally empty, hollow, and there was some breeze that would go from here to the navel. Like if the body was a house and you open the window and there's some kind of movement from the nostril to the navel. So we see even for the breath, we can move from an ordinary experience of the breath to something much more vast. And actually, Vasubandhu says that, and Asanga as well, they say that there is the gross breath from the nostril to the navel, but there is also the subtle breath that is everywhere in the body. I think that's particularly Vasubandhu, Indian master, great yogi that is presenting that. And we see that also in the tradition of Chan Buddhism in China with Chamana Zheyi, who is very important master, which present that for calming the body, we experience breathing through all the pores of our skin, as if. So now, if the breath is wherever there is a feeling of lightness and movement in the body, let's try to do a small test. Let's imagine that we could draw all our tactile sensation as if they were falling down, as if they were all these feelings that we have in the body, on our skin, inside, they were going down, as if attracted by the gravity, or as if there were some cosmic beams like X-rays that were coming from top of our head to our feet. This is an indication to take now the breath more in terms of the global breathing of the body. It's not often taught, these kind of breathing, but there's really definite, solid sources for that. And obviously, we find that in Vajrayana with the subtle body, the winds, the drops, the channels, etc. But even in the sutra, we can work with that. So imagine that when you breathe in or breathe out, there's an energy that drives through the head to the toes. Let's try. And that's why we have all these analogy of being like a mountain. What other ones we have? Like rooting ourselves, like thinking we are a tree. I think it has to do with the energy system of the body. And it has to do with the downward moving wind, I think, pretty much. It's a kind of prana, chi, that drives down. So we can imagine, it's not just imagination, basically, because with the power of the mind, visualizing it, it actually draws the winds, energetic wind, lung in Tibetan, to move. And when we do the 9-1 breathing, we do exactly the same. We take these winds that are a bit stagnant and we move them because that is promoting some benefits for the mind. So let's try again to think that we're breathing through all our body from the top of our head to our toes. As if a stronger sense of gravity. And when it happens, you can stop and say, oh, I feel something. There is something. It's not just imagination. That's what we do in Qigong or Tai Chi. We learn how to move this energy by the power of the mind or power of movements also. And when we experience a little fraction of that, maybe that would not happen tonight, but we can just pause and say, how does it feel? Is it grounding? Is it calming? What is my experience? How do I experience my body right now? Is it a bit more quiet? Is it more comfortable to be just still? And now we're going to establish our intention for that session. That by observing this topic of breaking through ordinary appearance, we may unlock our potential, hopefully, and take the direction of expressing fully our Buddha nature. May we keep reminding ourselves of the big picture, that we are much more than what we just seem to be when we look at us in the mirror in the morning. And may all the benefit that we may receive from our discussion tonight, may this unlock wisdom, compassion, and all that we dedicated for this. All of it. Okay. It's amazing. I've been meditating for a bit of time, not so long maybe, but it's amazing for just something that looked like very simple, like the breath, all what we can draw from it. It's amazing. Okay. So ordinary appearance. So we had a week to reflect maybe a bit on these ordinary appearances. Now we're going to see what are they really, how they are described in the text, and maybe more importantly, how we can train to gently break them. So ordinary appearance, they are mostly taught in the Vajrayana teaching, in the tantric teachings. And they refer to let's take an example. They refer to if I perceive myself as just being this body, this mind, well, I'm just this body and mind that I get sick, I'm tired in the morning, I'm just also gonna die and get old, and well, these are ordinary appearance. And in what prevents someone from becoming a Buddha, these are the ordinary appearance, but also the grasping at ordinary appearance. And the grasping is the belief this is so true. This is the belief that I'm only this, existing inherently as this, well, guy that find it hard to wake up in the morning. This very narrow self-identification that we saw last week. These are the two main obstacles in Tantra to become enlightened. It's amazing. Well, behind, obviously, there is afflictions, there is grasping, ignorance, karma. So to get a deeper sense of what are these ordinary appearances, let's go back to the telephone, to our infinite scrolling. So when I'm scrolling on Instagram, there are three things that I can say. First is that the frame is tiny compared to what exists. Yeah, we can watch a video, we can watch a movie in something that is such a tiny fraction of what our eyes can see, and yet when we are drawn into it, it fills all the mind, as if there is no more screen, as if we are having a movie theater inside our mind, kind of. So this is very ordinary because it's a tiny fraction of reality. But it's not the only problem we have with those devices. Is that often we are scrolling and we have information, but many times there are exaggeration on the screen, like AI building a story. We had this like few weeks ago. Someone made a video in France as if there was an actual coup, as if the government was like a group of people were taking on the government. And someone like a journalist next to the same saying, oh, President Macron was actually, there was a coup. And people started to believe, and for a moment it was a bit of chaos. So we believe it. It's exaggerated, and we believe it. In this ordinary appearance, these are the features. It's tiny, it's a tiny frame, we exaggerate, and we believe. And by the way, when we see how these social network works, well, they really works like our afflictions. They give to our affliction a food that they actually don't have to chew because it's already in the language of our affliction. When we scroll and we see all these violence and people being portrayed as so negative, and they have filters or strong negative music, it's already the kind of language that we were producing for eons just by the power of our imagination, where we were pissed or angry at someone. But now we don't even have to make an effort, because these exaggerated pictures that we have that are in the language of our affliction, they're already on the screen. It's amazing how it's done nowadays. They provide a food that is ready to eat. Like, we don't have to break all these big food. It's already like a soup that we ingest and we absorb it very naturally. It's amazing how some of the image are filtered in a way that is very close to the mental process of our affliction. So we have like someone on a screen, beautiful. We forgot, or we don't even know that this person looks like okay, but by the filter that that person has put on her camera, it appears to us so true as beautiful. And for that time, it fills all the space of our mind. Oh, I wish I could meet that person, or be with that person, or have the same hat or the same dress or whatever. This is the language of our affliction. This is already exaggerated. We don't have even to add, but obviously we add on top of that because we believe, and we scroll and we continue. So it's so narrow compared to what is the actual reality of that person. Second thing, we are very absorbed to that. When it happens, it fills our entire reality. We lose track of time a bit. We are absorbed. And it's the same with worldly appearance, ordinary appearance, sorry. Oh, someone got mad at me at work. It's a bad day for me. And then it fills all the space of our mind. This is our only reality for a while. So we are absorbing ourselves into that, forgetting about the way we breathe, forgetting about eating sometimes. And the last one is also very close to our affliction, in the telephone, in the swiping. That's why it's, I think, a good analogy for ordinary appearance and our grasping to it, is the algorithm. Algorithm for social network is very close to karma, basically. Because the more we stay on that, we don't even have to like, the more we stay on this image, on this video, well, there's an algorithm that knows that, and they're going to push more of that. And obviously, the more we crave to ordinary appearance and the more we grasp at them, the more it's going to be repeated. For as long as we grasp at this ordinary appearance of ourselves being just me like that, the more we travel in the endless algorithm of samsara. That's what is presented. So the algorithm is very smart in giving us something that we have no choice over. We don't choose what we're going to have. It's the same with our ordinary appearance. It comes like that. And it becomes a habit. We build a habit of content by scrolling. So that was for the telephone. But then we can do the same. We can do the same by losing track of the big picture of what we could become. We lose track of that big picture because we are absorbed in the belief that this is so true. I'm just this. And I mean, the modern time doesn't help. We think, well, consciousness is just an illusion of the brain. So basically, when you die, finish. You cannot think of something that goes beyond this life or that was before this life, because we are just matter. We're just a kind of illusion given by matter. And that also helps us to have a very little narrow-minded ordinary sense of ourselves that doesn't help, that makes us unhappy, that brings fear. And that sense of ordinariness is perpetuated over and over again. Let's just reflect a bit to see if it makes sense that sometimes we perceive ourselves in a very, we have a good day, oh, wonderful, it's like the cat on the screen. We swipe, oh, bad day, then this is all our reality. And we are tossed there and here by our views that come with no choice. Like a video that comes, suddenly we had a cat video, it was so nice, or like a wonderful cake, and suddenly I get the war video. I don't choose. And how much we change from one view to another. This is really the sense of ordinariness. That at no time in that swiping, I get to sense the big picture. I am just my body right now. I am my tiredness or my ambition, even can be. I'm just this. I'm just this person who cannot meditate, or I'm just this person that have a huge appetite for, I don't know, worldly pleasures, food, sex, or whatever. These are all cases of ordinary appearance. But there's a big difference also. Often, if I put a filter, it's because there's something I would like to hide. Like I have a big spot on my forehead, and I just put like a nice filter that look as if I'm just out of a 4-hour spa. So in scrolling, the reality is often ugly, and we want to hide it. Like I was in Indonesia last year, and I found this hotel in Sulawesi, in an island next to Sulawesi, which was very remote. Wonderful picture. The ocean was gorgeous. I've never seen corals like that and fish like that. And the picture looked beautiful. But I arrived there and I saw that beside the picture was on the beach, beautiful sun, but there was probably at some places, I'm not lying, probably a bit less than 1 meter thick of plastic garbage for this long stretch of beach that was, it was gorgeous. But it was really hard to bear that there was these sandals and plastic bottles and all this junk all along that beach. So this obviously is not in the advertisement for the hotel. So sometimes we do picture, we cannot give that to our friends because that's a bit hard to accept. So the reality is a bit ugly. Like in these places, there was also beautiful corals, but next to that were actual corals that were destroyed by grenades. That's how they used to fish in not so long ago. They would just draw bombs in the ocean. It would destroy all the corals, and all the fish would go on the surface. So many of the corals are destroyed like that. It's not in the picture either. So very often, our limited perspective is in order to hide something ugly. Not often, and I'm exaggerating a bit, but I think it's just to make the point. But that's the difference with our ordinary appearance in what is presented in Buddhism. That the ugly is the actual ordinary appearance. The beautiful is actually breaking those ordinary appearances, because then we catch up with something that is immense and extremely beautiful and inspiring in the practice. So if we would have to practice that a bit of every day of it, wow, it would bring a lot of joy, of beauty, of meaning. And that's what we're going to see in the second part. So in the text, again, what is considered the ordinary appearance is ourselves as samsaric being, basically. And grasping at us being inherently existing is the actual grasping at ordinary appearance. These are the two causes that prevents one to become a Buddha. These are the important points. So we saw last week, and I gave you a little riddle about memory. If I'm just me right now, impermanent, changing moment by moment, how can I say, and how I can identify myself with something that's not here now? How can I say I was that? I was a baby. Well, what do you mean, François, when I was a baby? Me with this mind and body, I was the baby, so I go back in time? Doesn't make sense, right? I will become enlightened. I will become a Buddha. Does it mean this body and this mind is gonna blend in a nice, beautiful picture of a Buddha? No, it's not like that, right? So that was the riddle. Now, I can give you part of an answer, because it's a tricky one. I'm not sure all the schools would posit something like that, but they say that through myself, I'm impermanent and I don't exist inherently. This is what they would say. But whenever I think of myself, I don't have always to go back to that mind and that body right now. There could be also a general sense of me. And that general sense of me, this is something that we all have, and it's innate. It's not something we learn, it's innate. This sense of me that is not necessarily pointing toward me right now. And that me, it is said it extends over the 3 times, which means it has no beginning and no end. We don't hear it often because it would feel as if there was some I that was permanent. No, it doesn't mean it's permanent. It's still changing moment by moment, this I. It is still made of causes and conditions. It doesn't have existence on its own because it depends on other factors, but it is without beginning and without end. This is what we call the mere I. And this is what allows us to make sense when we say, I was a baby, or I was a dog in previous life, and I will become a Buddha. Because that I, that is innate, the mere I, is beginningless and endless, despite being empty of inherent existence. And that's why I can say, I will become a Buddha. It's not me right now, but the general I will become a Buddha. I will become a Buddha. Why do I take time for that? Because otherwise we have some time reserved to think, oh, I will become a bodhisattva. I will generate bodhicitta. I will enter the path. I will, because we think of us not in a general I sense, but in this very restricted me right now with my difficulty to meditate. I will not achieve shamatha. I will not become more focused because I'm only this. But we don't have always to take that very specific now I as a referent, which is often also exaggerated by our affliction. We can just think I is something that exists that is beyond the I of now. And that's why it makes sense that we can say and identify ourselves on saying, I was a baby. I was a teenager. I did university. I did that job. Because that's the general I that did this thing. Not the me right now that go back in time. So now we can play. It means we can identify ourselves on something that is not yet there, and we can identify ourselves on something that we did that is not anymore now. We don't have to always identify ourselves on the past or on the present. We can also say, if it's correct, I will become enlightened. And we can use our imagination. So let's do the test that we did last week. Remember yourself being in school and not use the past tense. Just think, I am in this courtyard. I'm playing with my friend. It's a valid memory. And it's not me going back in time. It's correct to say I was. Let's do that. Continue. So because we saw that this ordinary appearance is a big hindrance for our spiritual development, let's try to imagine now something that is not happening now, that is possible. And even if it's impossible, if it helps us now, it's fine. We saw that last week. Imagine ourselves, if you take something big and it's a problem for you, take something small. Imagine yourself not in the future in your future tense, like I will, but I am. I am more focused. I am more gentle. I am more loving. Imagine you have it now. Okay. So it really works the same as memory. It's a kind of memory of remembering ourselves of something in the future. But we can say something like, I am. It doesn't mean we are believing that we are that now, but the I can be that I of the future, because it's a general I. It's not the me right now being there. And there we use something that is the accomplishment of our qualities and benefits. And when we really feel as if it's happening now, this is very empowering, because this is the opening of the big picture to what we can become. And this is at the core of loving kindness. In loving kindness, we start, how would that be if I was? Loving kindness for ourselves. How would it be if I was more patient? So we have to use that as if we have it now, because it will unlock our self-deprecating mind and etc. So in those teachings on Vajrayana, it's considered correct to imagine that we are now a Buddha. To imagine, so it's not reality, that we are Buddha now, because we use the same as this memory onto the future. I don't know if it's clear. I hope I'm not too confusing. Because these are, I don't find a lot of explanation on that. But in practice, I find it very, very meaningful, because it works a bit the same with loving kindness. So now, how we can design something that helps us, kind of practice we could do every day? Well, there are already lots of options in Indo-Tibetan Buddhism, and I'm going to just take one of it, because obviously in Vajrayana and Tantrayana, there's a lot of possibilities to break through ordinary appearance. What I'm going to introduce is what we call inspiration, and to make request to our teacher or an inspiring figure. But first let's go just to an aspiration. If we want to break through the ordinary appearance we have ourselves, we have to spend time every day to wish for that. It cannot come otherwise. Again, we cannot be enlightened without wishing for enlightenment. We cannot reach shamatha without wanting it. So it would be great if every day we had a bit of time thinking, what do I wish? And not to think too much in reasonable sense. Well, obviously, and Edith asked the question last week, what's the difference between aspiration and craving? Craving, if you feel unpeaceful, if you need it, if it's bringing a bit of unsatisfaction, insatiability, and suffering, it means there's a problem in the way we practice. But if it's opening, rejuvenating, joyful, light, relaxed, then it's possibly that we are doing it right. So to spend a bit of time every day, what do I really wish? And imagine ourselves having those things. Imagining ourselves being peaceful if I'm not, being compassionate if I'm not. Obviously, all the practice that helps to understand that it's possible actually to have more will help. So these are the teaching on Buddha nature, these are the teaching on the nature of the mind, these are on inspiration from a teacher, there are many things that can be helping in the process, but would be great if every day we would have this thought, how wonderful it would be if I was a bit more like that. To have the conviction and the motivation that it's possible. And that's not the easy part. When I was in retreat for 3 months, there were days where I thought, oh, I'm not gonna make it. I don't think I will progress. I go back to the beginning. And this time it's very hard. It was very hard in my mind to imagine, or I could visualize myself reaching shamatha, for example. And then I had no energy and it was really hard to meditate and I could not focus basically because I lost the big picture. I lost the thought that I could eventually attain these states of concentration. And the cure for that in shamatha is to just, well, there are many antidotes, but to imagine having it again. How would that be? I am now having it. My mind is totally quiet. Same as when I imagine someone which I'm angry at, I imagine this person being happy. It dissolves my anger. Well, in the same way, I do the same for my future, and it helps me now. So I would say first thing is to have conviction in the quality of the thing we wish for. Because if I'm aspiring for shamatha or concentration, but I don't want to be focused, it's not going to work. All the process is going to fail maybe. So to see the quality of the thing we would like to achieve, spend time imagining, how would that be if I was more peaceful, more kind? And really think, oh, as if I'm actually reliving or imagining up to the point that it makes no difference between imagining and thinking I have it now. This level of reality in our imagination. Because then I go back to thinking it's possible. That's the most important. I go back to thinking it's possible. So, first step is to see the benefits and have conviction that there are some benefits. The second is to wish for that. I wish I could have. I wish I could be more compassionate. And it comes naturally when the first phase is done, basically. This you've heard from me in the retreat or teachings on shamatha, that it's so important. So I'm not going to stay too long on that. What I would like to introduce is what we find in the text that is basically what we do on a daily basis. We do the same process of conviction in the quality and aspiration, but with regard to an enlightened figure, a Buddha, a Bodhisattva, a teacher, someone we find inspiring. It could, I think, maybe even be our future enlightenment, our future Buddhahood. So basically, the first step is we do request. We do request, and it's very hard for us sometimes to think of the idea of asking someone as if we would think is not there. There's no one hearing me when I ask for inspiration or blessing, or it's kind of silly imagination. Sometimes that's our feeling. But it's not for them, we do that for us. We think and we imagine being in front of a very inspiring person that has a lot of quality, and we ask what we wish for in our life. And there's a point in which this becomes tangible. It becomes like, oh, yeah, I feel like I'm really asking someone that is very important. And again, it can be our future Buddhahood. Imagine ourselves in the state of a Buddha in front of us, or enlightened figure, or someone having much more compassionate. We could say, in modern sense, our future self, because we hear that a lot. Could even pick that and ask, because in asking, we are actually training in wishing for something, in aspiration. I wish, may I be more compassionate, may I have wisdom. And this you will find a lot in Indo-Tibetan Buddhism, this request to the teacher. But it's mostly because we train in every day having this aspiration for seeing the big picture, for breaking through the ordinary sense of ourselves. I wish. Please. We do request because we understand the power of aspiration. Aspiration is behind loving kindness, it's behind compassion, it's behind all bodhicitta, is behind so many things. To aspire, to train in aspiring again and again. So this is one part that we often do. And the second, it's a bit controversial because the translation is not so good. It's blessing. So in blessing, we have some time of light that is emitted from a Buddha, or even nectar sometime that goes from the Buddha to our head and dissolve in our body, as if we are in a church and someone gives us a precious substance and rub it on our forehead and suddenly transform everything. Well, blessing has a very religious taste to it. And we basically imagine that these colors and light, which are just symbol, they are literal. We take it very literally. What is blessing? Blessing, it comes from a word that means the Sanskrit word adhisthana. And I will share some sources so you have some things to read. And it basically means a position close to someone. And the way I'm going to present it, the blessing, is imagine, I'm sorry, my analogies are very bad, but imagine you are invited to a fashion show. You are invited in a Gucci fashion show. But you are just a new designer and you enter with your cardboard, you give it to the people so they can lead to your seat, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to sit over there, but it's behind the stairs and you don't see anything. And it's just on a tiny chair, like very tiny, crappy, in the middle of everyone passing. You feel really bad because you want to be famous, and it's very disappointing. And it's 2 minutes before the show starts, and suddenly someone comes and say, oh, we found you a seat. And they take you by the hand and they lead you just in the first row next to the celebrities, the actors, and the Vogue director and whatever. And there you're sitting and you feel, oh. So what is adhisthana? Adhisthana in Sanskrit can mean a seat, can mean a position close to someone. So basically, and in Tibetan it's shin, I'm not so, let me check, it's shin lap. Yeah, shin lap in Tibetan. So basically, when you are being closer to the stage, you have a kind of boost. This is just what is a blessing. It's a boost. I'm sorry, the word is so not so good, but I think it's giving more the sense rather than blessing. It's a boost. And the Tibetan for that is Chinlap, which means it comes from Chin, which is magnificent potential, and Lap, which means to transform. So basically, blessing is to transform into a magnificent potential. To transform into a magnificent potential. Okay. So basically, you are on the first row and you have this boost. So let's go back to our practice. You ask for the teacher, oh, may I be more compassionate? Because we do it on our own anyway. So why don't we do that for a being that is more inspiring? Because not only we cultivate aspiration, but we also cultivate being closer to our teacher. Is more. So we are making this request and then we imagining receiving what we ask for. But it's just a symbol. It's just symbolic. This is not the main actual thing. So we imagine being compassionate, entering the path, developing bodhicitta, and we imagine up to the point where we think we have it. And in the same way we did with being a Buddha, it doesn't mean that we are now convinced that we have it now, but we do as if we have it now. We imagine as if we have it now. And this will definitely boost us. This is going to be the blessing. So the blessing is basically a brightening of our potential that is made by thinking of the teacher, asking for the teacher, but we can receive blessing. We can be boosted by circling around a stupa, going a pilgrimage or whatever. There's not, I think, only teacher that can make this blessing, but definitely they can. So it's being boosted. Because when I remind myself I can have these qualities, wow, every day, for those who do guru yoga, yoga of the teacher, what happens at the end? You ask something a bit crazy. You ask for the teacher to merge, to unite with yourself, to become undifferentiated with yourself. Well, if it's not empowering, and it's not just making your own soup, it is in most of the Guru Yoga text. You imagine the Guru with all this quality dissolving into light, entering your body, becoming totally one with yourself. And this is the same process. This is to remind yourself of the potential that is absolutely equal, because the nature of your mind is identical with the nature of the mind of your teacher. It has the same potential. And that is very boosting, to start the day with the idea, oh, I'm much more than this lazy, stubborn François meditating. I start meditation or I end meditation with the thought, wow, yes, there is potential. And maybe this, and then to extend that to every beings, to say, well, these beings are all the same to this regard. It's very empowering. It's very boosting. And then you start meditation on shamatha, and this is not anymore this very narrow, ordinary François starting to meditate. So meditation is much more likely to come to a nice outcome, because we start with a point of view, with a starting point that is very vast and big. And I will say, even if that was not true, that we had this potential to become a Buddha, that would still be helpful for us now to imagine it like that. But on top of that, it is possible. And that is what we are engaged to yearn to understand, that we actually have that potential. And for that, again, there is the teaching on emptiness, understanding the mind, understanding Buddha nature, etc. They're all clues that can help us to build stronger connection and conviction that it's possible. So making request to train for aspiration and imagining have it now. So let's try. And those ideas are mainstream now. They just have different names, tapping onto your future self, uh, positive thinking, visualization of, I don't know, there's a lot of these words that are used. But here we don't use it just for, no, we don't use it for worldly concern. We use it for making all our quality blossom. So let's take something that we would like to develop a bit more. And let's imagine in front of us an inspiring figure. Can be a teacher, Buddha. If you're not Buddhist, could be a rabbi, or I don't know. Many options are possible. And they indeed provide so much material for us to train our mind. So it's not unrelated at all to think that these blessings are coming from them. I'm getting boosted by all these teachings. So let's ask now. As if they were in front of us, we don't have to visualize all the details, just feel their presence. And honestly, sincerely, simply ask. Please. And that's a training all by itself. It takes time, and you'll experience many resistance maybe that you can apply antidote for that later on. It's fine to have resistance. It's totally fine. This is not obvious practice for some of us. Let's train in asking. And that's something we can do a bit every day. And if we don't feel like asking to anyone, we can just wish for that. That's enough. Maybe to start with, just have this aspiration. I'm asking, I'm wishing I could have more of this. And now comes the part where we can use visualization. They are just a support to our concentration. This is not the actual meaning. There's no substance coming from the teacher inherently existing, traveling in space, and no, it's just a support for our meditation. Imagine from the heart of the person in front of us is a light coming out that carries all the things that we want, all the things that we've asked. and it enters our body through the top of our head, and we imagine it pervades all the cells, all the molecule, all the atoms of our body. They are become infused with this light that carries what we asked for, that gives us what we asked for. And meanwhile, that light can bring some clarity to our body, a sense of lightness. It can bring relaxation. It's fine. The text really mentioned these two, clarity and relaxation. Our whole body becomes bright, as if all the atoms were emanating some kind of little light. But that light had a flavor or had a special taste of the thing we asked for. And it gives us our entire body, and our entire being is now totally filled with what we asked for. We have it. Let's imagine we have it now. Our general I that extend over the past, present, and future now have that. It has that. It's endowed with those qualities now. So we can alternate between imagine the light and thinking this light is those elements, and having the conviction, I have it now. Even if it just lasts for a tiny second, even if it's just a little glimpse of a start. And that's what can break our sense of ordinary grasping. That's what can break the algorithm of ordinary appearance. We remind ourselves of our potential. And speaking of those blessings, there's three things you can ask. You can ask for bringing about qualities, for dispelling afflictions. Like you can imagine it dissolve your anger, it dissolve our resentment, our anxiety. And the third is to remove the obstacles. And because this is an imagination process, we can even imagine for those who have sickness, for example, it removes the sickness. Or it brings long life. And for everything doesn't mean that we're gonna have a long life or we're gonna be left out from that sickness, but that can make a change. So it purifies our negativity, it brings about positive aspect, and it dispels the obstacles. These are the three elements that are often referred to in the ask, in the request for blessing, in the request for inspiration. And I think to do just a little bit of that every day, and I do it more and more, and I'm always a bit at the end, as if there's I really feel myself, I have resistance to that. Because it's not easy for myself to face that this is actually possible. How I can say that? Because maybe there's the old me, the ordinary me, that doesn't really want me thinking I'm something else than just that ordinary, tired person. But it's like when you go running, you don't want in the beginning, but you're always happy when you do it. So at the end of the meditation, when there's the teacher dissolving and entering, and I say, wow, this is so this is so nice. And then if we can keep that during the day, wow. And to extend and to look at the others like they are future Buddhas. At Nalanda, the ancient monastic university in India, northern India, they had this training when they were in class, they were all considering themselves bodhisattva, and they would see the teacher as a Buddha. Wow. If I was to see in what we face in the world today, those challenging figures having the potential to become a Buddha, and as if, well, it's not as if, as future Buddhas, would be different. Okay, so I think that's about it. This very confusing presentation. If you have anything you would like to share, I'm all ear. Yes, Edith.
First, I have something that came to my mind, that it's like shifting the way you think. Like, we used to think that if I practice and I work on something and I really practice it again and again and again, then maybe someday I become enlightened or become like, even not Buddha, like more compassionate and more patient. But in a way, it's like shifting the pyramid. It's like not working from the bottom with all the afflictions it's like being already that. And then all the afflictions and that's what I felt when
Yeah. It's a bit like when you imagine you can taste the cookies before actually cooking them.
Yes, I can be that. I can smell it,
Yeah, you don't have to wait. This is the beauty of this practice. We don't have to wait for having those things to start to benefit from it.
Because actually there is no time.
Yeah,
So if we imagine properly and kind of summon, invite the proper emotion, but when you invite someone to your space, you have to open it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you have this attitude of asking, you put yourself in a kind of very open, vulnerable, moist posture that you are then more receptive for bringing a result.
Yeah,
ask genuinely for a teacher, wow, this is an act of openness, and you put yourself under the protection of that being. It's a very humble practice. Yeah, thank you, Edith.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Another one, maybe? Can be just a reaction also to what was presented. It's, yeah? No?
I just want to say that I feel very happy and want to practice what you teach us today.
Wonderful. That's all what I'm here for. I don't have any other function than that. And again, this is so much embedded in Indo-Tibetan Buddhism. It's so much present. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I think this is time for dedication, and then we'll have the wonderful text to read together. Aspiration is so big, so important. Up to some point in retreat, sometimes I say everything is about loving kindness. Everything is about wishing beings to be happy, included us. Everything is there. So let's wish that we would bring this big picture in our life more often. So we are not easily prey to these narrow, ordinary views of hatred, resentment, hostility, jealousy, miserliness. May I train in opening my mind to these huge results that could come from every being. May I never stop to practice these aspirations and receive the blessings to be nicely boosted from my teachers, from the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas. And may all my friends, my family, touch this huge spring of goodness, this huge potential. May everyone, would be great if everyone would come in touch with the big picture. that all who are sad, anxious, know the method to break those to break the toxic scrolling addiction and leave the realm of fear and suffering forever. May all the beings in this earth come into contact with their Buddha nature, their qualities. And all what I've done tonight may it never be wasted and only go into that direction of awakening my full potential and allowing myself to unlock the potential of others. And may one day I enter the practice of Vajrayana and be able to see all the beings in their enlightened form, all the environment in the shape of a mandala, beautiful palace, wonderful environment. And may we finish by having this wish that one day we will totally break through these ordinary appearances and become ourselves Buddhas. And Yael is going to read prayer.
Yeah. So, François, we do it in Hebrew.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. זו תפילה לשלום מאת היוגי הגדול, טנגטונג גיאלפו, שלמה זופה תרגם.
זה הנוסח הקודם, יעלוש, אבל אוקיי. כן.
אני כל כך ניסיתי שזה יהיה נכון, חכי. באמת? איזה אכזבה. את בטוחה?
כן, כן, ברור.
תני לי רגע. אז אולי ניצן שלח לי את הזה? אני חשבתי, הנה יש. שניונת.
אם אני רוצה לעשות share.
הנה.
מצאת?
טוב, זה הסוגריים הפוכים, אבל אנחנו נסתדר. אתם רואים?
אוקיי.
יש?
כן, זה.
רואים? אוקיי.
כן, כן.
אוקיי.
כולם יכולים לקרוא את זה.
אום אני פדמה הום. האחד המנצח, הגדול, האוהב, בודה מייטריה. הנשגב, הנעלה, זה המביט בעין חומלת. היגריב והזוהם המנצח. ג'טסונטרה הטהורה לחלוטין שהשיגה שלמות במלואה ועוד. רק עצם שמיעת שמותיכם הקדושים מסלקת את כל הסכנות. מושאי מקלט שהחמלה היא טבע מהותם. אנא הקשיבו. כאשר היצורים בעלי התודעה בתקופה של סכסוכים וחמש ההתנוונויות, עם התפרצות האוקיינוס הגדול של קרמה שלילית וקנאה, מתייסרים בסבל העז הכרוך בלחימה וסכסוכים. אנא יבשו את הסבל הזה בעזרת כוחן של החוכמה והחמלה הנעלות. בעזרת המטרת שפע ממטרים של נקטר טוב הלב האוהב, על היצורים הנודדים המלבים את התלקחות אש השנאה. אנא העניקו ברכות שיכירו אלו באלו, במי שהיו עבורם אב ואם, ולאחר מכן הרבו עושר ומכלול תנאים מבורכים. מי ייתן והמוני הרוחות המרושעות הזדוניות, החודרות לתוך הרצף המנטלי ומשנות והופכות אותו באופן מיידי לתודעת האסורה, לא תפעלנה אף פעם באזור הזה, בארץ, בעולם, מעתה ואילך. אני מבקש אפילו עבור כל היצורים בעלי התודעה שמתו במלחמה, ומשאותה עת ואילך ינטשו את כל הקרמה השלילית, סיבה ותוצאה. ואז, לאחר שנכנסו ונולדו בשדה העושר העילאי, ארצו הטהורה של המיטה בה, שיובילו את כל האחרים והאחרות לאותה ארץ טהורה. אנא ברכו את כל אותם אלה הנולדים ומתים, שיהיו להם חיים ארוכים ללא מחלות, שירגיעו כל סכסוך ומלחמה, שיהנו מ10 הפעולות המיטיבות, שיזכו לגשם בזמנים הנכונים, שיהיו להם תמיד יבולים טובים, שהסביבה כולה וכל תושביה יתברכו בכל טוב וישגשגו. בזכות המציאות המוחלטת הטהורה מעצם טבעה, מתוך כך שלתופעות יש מציאות מוחלטת, סיבה ותוצאה אינן מוטלות בספק. ובזכות חמלתו של הגורו, בזכותה של ישות התודעה החתומה המושלמת במלואה, ובזכותם של הנעלים הנדירים, מי ייתן והתפילות הנרחבות הטהורות הללו תתגשמנה במלואן. ולמה זופה עשה הקדשה לתפילה הזאת? באמצעות כל הזכונות הצפונות, כל המריט, שנצברו בעקבות פעולת הנגשת התרגום הזה. מי ייתן שכל מקום שהוא בו נמצא הטקסט הזה, בכל מדינה שהיא, כמו גם קריאת התפילה הזו, יהוו סיבה לכך שלבבותיהם של כל בני ובנות האדם יתמלאו בטוב לב אוהב, בבודיצ'יטה ובמחשבה להיטיב בלבד ולא להזיק. מי ייתן שתעלה ותזרח שמש השלום והאושר, והלוואי שכל המלחמות המתחוללות באשר הן תיפסקנה לאלתר. מי ייתן שתשרור הרמוניה ויהיה שלום. מי ייתן שלא תהיינה עוד מלחמות, עוד לעולם מלחמה או אלימות.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
And that is ending our session. Next time we'll meet will be for some of you in Israel, hopefully.
Yes.
And for the other, until next time. It was a nice time for me to explore this also while preparing and sharing it with you. So be well.
You too. It was wonderful, François. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
you're welcome, Tal. Thank you for giving me the chance to teach on that.
We'll imagine the retreat and feel bliss coming on. Really, thank you.
So until next time, all the best for all of you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
François.
much.
Bye-bye.
Fantastic.
Take care.